Okay, welcome back everyone. I wanted to go back further into this function. I want to talk about calling the function specifically. So if I, for example, say run f of 5, we know that the result of that is going to be 5 squared plus 5 is 30. But you'll notice that nothing happens. So the reason that is because it's still doing it. If I said now to print, actually let me do it in the terminal to show you that it actually happened. So print, oh actually it's not going to work. In other words, this is interesting. I'll just do it. There's y is not defined. So what? I thought y was done. Well, actually what you have to do is you have to print f of and then 5, example. So what is a return statement? So this is kind of tricky. In other words, in this statement where it says return y, that's only for the function. As soon as the function is done being run, it's over. Like it's no longer going to be defined as, it's not going to save the variable y as whatever your result was. It will give you that output, and you could do it that way if I, for example, did z equals f of 5, for example, and then print z. That will work. So let me clear this to show you. So in other words, if I want to save the result of what's being spit out of my function, I need to do that. Like I can't, returning the value just temporarily spits out a value. If I actually want it to be saved, I have to create another variable, call it z, and set it equal to that, so that when it returns y, it'll save it and store it as the value z. And then it will actually print the result, and it'll remember that forever. Okay? So, and I can even do that. That's very useful. For example, if I wanted to do a different one, f of 10, right? Now, by the way, what's y? Well, y is going to be changing when we run the loop. So we're going to go ahead and show you that if I ask it to print y, it'll say, sorry. It actually does the first two, but then it says y is not defined. And you say, but wait, I defined it right here. Y is equal to, no, that's inside of a function, okay? So you gotta be very careful when you're trying to get things out of a function, all right? So functions are very useful, but they can also be a little bit misleading. You think that you're defining y here, and you are. You're telling it how to find y, and you are even returning the value. But if you want to store that for later use, which, believe it or not, is not something we're often going to do, but if you did, you'd have to create a variable and set it equal to that to use for later. Okay? Alright, so now let's go a little bit further. Okay? So let's go back to here. I'm going to pause it for a second. Okay. So what I want to show you also is that instead of doing a return value, I could have just said, well, I just want to see if it's working. I don't want to return y. I just want to see if y is working. And that's where you could use a print statement. So what's interesting here is if I call the function f of x, it's not going to remember what y is, and except for it will print out what y is. But if I then ask it to print y again, over here in the terminal, or the turtle shell, whatever it is, I mean the Python shell, oh, oops. It doesn't remember because y is not actually defined. So what's interesting is that it was able to print y inside the function, but it doesn't remember what it was, even if I return it. So even if I had clicked return y, it's still not going to be able to do that. So okay, y is 30, but if I say print y now, whoops, over here, same result. It's not going to be defined. Okay. So basically, it's important that you understand that if you want to save the value of y, or the return value that's going to come out, more than just throughout the loop, then you're going to have to create a variable and set it equal to that. All right? So hopefully that clears out the difference between using a function and the return values. You're going to be using return a lot, and you're not always going to return the same thing. My suggestion is if you're going to do multiple things, you're going to want to use the print statements. Okay? All right. In the next video, I'm going to talk about using multiple variables in one function.